There are some quite weird Disney shorts, but I have to say, Frank Duck Brings Them Back Alive has to be one of the weirdest I've seen. Not in a way that's offensive, there are some that are very weird and very offensive and shouldn't exist, certainly ones from kind of the 20s and 30s. This one was released in 1946, and the animation style is interesting. There are a few things that I really enjoyed, but ultimately I thought it was a little bit peculiar. So, as I said, released in 1946, directed by Jack Hanna, usual fantastic voice cast, Clarence Nash as Donald Duck, Pinto Colvig as Goofy, and it's quite rare that we get Goofy and Donald in a short together with the absence of Mickey. Not something that bothered me at all, of course, I just thought it was a pretty interesting thing. I'm going to read the first 2 lines of the narrative description from Wikipedia, just to give you a little flavour of what it's about. I'm not going to go into too much detail, I don't want to spoil it. But there is something that I particularly enjoyed that I do want to touch upon, so I will give you a tiny spoiler warning when I'm about to mention that. So the description reads as follows. Goofy appears as a wild man living in an African jungle, gracefully swinging from vine to vine, kind of like Tarzan. Employed by the Ajax Circus, Frank Duck, Donald Duck, arrives in the jungle on a riverboat in search of a wild man. After Goofy bungles an attempt to kill Frank, etc., etc. I will stop there. Basically, Donald Duck is this Frank Duck character trying to capture this wild man who is Goofy, and while trying to capture him, Goofy is obviously trying to kill him and get him away from his territory. Will Donald be able to capture Goofy or not? That bit's all quite interesting. A little bit odd. I still find it really weird, the whole Goofy trying to kill Donald just doesn't feel very Disney magic to me. But it's, I guess, maybe an accurate representation of what it would have been like. Donald trying to capture this wild man to take him back to a circus. Again, well, actually, that's kind of the epitome of 1940s Disney and early Disney. That's definitely what I would have expected from them. But it's a little bit awkward to watch. Not in a bad way, but just when when you're used to watching Donald and Goofy doing other things, it's a little bit out of character. I have to say Donald gets suitably agitated at Goofy always getting away from him. I won't say how it concludes, but there's a very funny moment where actually I'll keep that for the end. There are 2 things that I want to talk about that I particularly found entertaining. But they occur towards the end, so I'll keep it as spoiler free as possible. The sound effects are really good. The voice acting is obviously brilliant. Not that there's very much dialogue in this. The scenery is really nice. I do get the feeling that we're in the jungle. It feels very realistic, as much as an animation from the 40s can. This lion character comes along and puts a spanner in the works for both of our characters. Cute little lion, suitably ferocious. I think it's nice to have this kind of catalyst that puts Donald and Goofy on the same side, even though they're still fighting one another and equally trying to escape one another's threats. This line kind of ties them together, and I think that works really well. The animation style is really good, the editing's really nice. It's not overly long, it's the average kind of 6-7 minutes for a Disney short, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was weird, I still think it's weird, but it's different, and I liked it. So, 2 small spoilery things that don't actually spoil anything to do with what happens, but there are 2 things that I found particularly interesting. One, there's a scene where Goofy and Donald are running away from the lion and they accidentally swap clothes, and Goofy is dressed as Donald Duck. And I thought that was just brilliant. It just looked absolutely fantastic. I thought it was very, very entertaining. And there's another bit where Goofy steals the boat. This isn't how it ends, but there's a bit where Goofy tries to steal the boat and he starts, going away in the river. And Donald Duck runs up to the edge of the river and is like, "Bring back my boat." I'm just thinking, you're a duck. Swim. Get in the water and swim. You are a duck. So I just find that particularly ironic, and something that amused me a lot. It's enjoyable. Never going to be my favourite, but there are a lot of things about it that I hadn't expected, a lot of things that surprised me. I can't really fault it. It's not bad at all. Not my favourite, but if you're a fan of Donald or Goofy, or you're just looking for a Disney short that's maybe a little bit different, Frank Duck Brings Him Back Alive is probably a good shout to go with.